Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We'll
Hi,
give it
everybody.
a little bit here for everyone to trickle in. Um, but thank y'all for taking the time to join us on this Friday afternoon.
Yep. Welcome, everybody. Our first webinar of 2026. Woo.
Let's see. All right. Well, there are still some people trickling in, but I guess we can start off with introductions and people can hop on. And y'all, there's a Q&A, so please feel free to hop in the Q&A at any point, ask questions. This is really an interactive time to get all your questions answered. So we're here for you.
I'm going to take over. Welcome, everyone, to our first Education Scholarship Trust Fund webinar for 2026. I'm Tisha McIver. I am the ESTF Implementation Coordinator for Palmetto Navigate Ed. Woo! Assisting me today, I have Felicity Ropp and Joshua Gross and Yanni from Outbridge. Felicity and Joshua are from the South Carolina Department of Education, and Yanni is from Outbridge. So they will be helping me today. During this webinar today, we will cover all things related to the Education Scholarship Trust Fund, the ESTF, but we will definitely put some emphasis and focus today on January 15th as we have been preparing and we're already 6 days out for our priority group applications. Cheer fingers. It's been a long time coming, so we're excited. So we'll be answering all questions, application questions. The chat, as Felicity said, is open. Feel free to put questions in there, and we are here to ensure that you guys feel comfortable and ready to go next week. I wanted to share real quick before we continue on some exciting news. We have our new website. It went live yesterday, Thursday. So just wanted to kind of share the home screen and just some cute little things that it does to help families. But we've put a lot of thought into this to make it very user friendly for everyone. So I'm going to click and share. Hopefully it'll come up. It's been working. There we go. It's so pretty and user friendly. So we have the connecting families to learning just very quickly. You can access providers, different things here. You're an ESTF user. If you just want to explore and find out information, the best thing ever about it is you can switch your language over from English to Spanish and your entire page switches for you so that you are not struggling just in the English language to comprehend the information you need as a parent. So, um, again, like I said, we put a lot of thought into the page and we are just excited for you all as parents to start utilizing the page. And please provide us with any feedback. If you see things, as always, we're receptive to that. So, oops, sorry. Get back to my presentation. All right. So again, we always have our partners that participate with us for webinars. Outbridge, Yanni's on, and Outbridge provides parents and providers with resources and individual counseling on how to use your funds. Facts is all things application. So if you're having an issue with your application, uploading documents or whatever the case may be, you would contact Facts in reference to anything dealing with your application. The Department, South Carolina Department of Education, are the administrators of the program. They are our great partners that answer your questions, make sure that you understand your status, all of those wonderful things. They support and make sure that everything runs runs smoothly for the ESTF. So South Carolina School Choice Alliance was formerly known as South Carolina School Choice Alliance. Palmetto Navigate Ed, which is the site I just shared with you. That's what you will be seeing going forward. Everything will still link and work between both websites. So if you forget to email Palmetto Navigate, you can always use your old email and it'll still come to me. I'm a real person. I'm answering those emails in real time. I'm a real girl. So, um, class wallet, how to use ESTF once you are in the program. So, once you've been approved and deemed eligible, then you will be sent the information to set up a class wallet account. And that is how you pay all of your expenses through class wallet. What is ESTF? So ESTF was passed. It's the Education Scholarship Trust Fund. So we shortened it and just use ESTF. It was passed into law in 2023, updated in 2025, and signed into law May 7th of 2025. So we had to make some modifications. As we go through the process of explaining the Education Trust Fund, Scholarship Trust Fund, I always point out the modifications that were made so that that's understood what changed from the original ESTF to what we have now. So a lot of states refer to their Education Scholarship Trust Fund as an ESA. So those that stands for Education Scholarship or Education Savings Account. Of course, we're South Carolina, so we had to do our own thing. Okay, so it has to be called the ESTF here. We've got it. We go big or we go home. So we had to add a little extra South Carolina to it. So the ESTF is designed for low to middle class income families. This year, we have been able to go from 200% federal poverty line to 500% federal poverty line. And we'll go into that a little more as well. I love to show the map when I'm talking to families about the ESA, ESTFs, because it lets you know over the years how much we've grown. Arizona was a flagship. They got us started with the ESAs, and now we have over 19 states that actively participate in a form of ESA. It is very important to note here that each state has their own version of the ESA. So not all states are created equal. So the information that we go over today is state specific to South Carolina families. Education savings accounts traditionally can be used for your private school tuition, tutoring services, school transportation assistance, and other education expenses. I will specifically talk about what ours in South Carolina does in just a moment because we have some additional things that our ESA or Education Scholarship Trust Fund covers. How ESAs work. So funds are appropriated from the ESA program. Funds, once you're deemed eligible, funds are loaded into each child's account. So that's the class wallet account that we discussed a few moments ago. Parents access accounts online and can select the approved education service provider of their choice and upload an invoice. There is never any money transferred in physical currency from a parent to pay for anything. Everything is filtered through the class wallet. Okay, so funds are transferred to the education service provider on the student's behalf. Okay, so that's something that I like, that we have to make sure we keep very clear so that families are not, paying for things and then expecting to be reimbursed. So students enjoy a flexible, customized education and new opportunities through the ESA. So this year we are excited to announce and bless it. Everybody who's ever heard me do my presentations of when you're a math person, that 34 just drives you crazy, but we are still excited and we'll take any additional dollar amount. So this year the scholarship is at $7,634. Woohoo. Last year it was 7,500, so we have an increase. Not only were we able to increase your dollar amount, but also the amount of scholarships that can be awarded this year has increased from 10,000 to 15,000. So this is all just awesome news and exciting. We do have a little note down here. You will get like a weird number somewhere in your quarterly disbursements with the 34 being on the end. And as a former banker, that just kind of drives me wonky at times, but it's all good. We'll accept any extra money. The allowable expenses for the ESTF in South Carolina, like I said, it's a little different from the other states. So private school tuition is accepted as a form of payment to tutoring, textbooks and curriculum, online school, disability therapies, school transportation, up to $3,500 a school year. Technology and school supplies, $1,200 every 2 years for your laptops, computers, or your special calculators. You cannot buy a laptop every school year. So it's every 2 years that you can update those super expensive items, such as your laptops, your computers, or special calculators. School uniforms, we're still working on getting a provider, universal provider. So still just please be patient with us on that. We're still working in the background on that. Testing, so if you needed to do AP, SAT, ACT, or any other standardized testing, you may use your ESTF funds to pay for those tests. Fees for transfer to another public school district. This is normally where we get a lot of questions because people want to know, well, how is public school or charter school included in ESTF? It is about school choice. So if a parent is taking their child out of their zone public school and allowing them to be educated in their non-zone public schools. So they're maybe taking their child to a school across town. As long as it's not your zone public school, that is a school choice. So you're making a choice outside of your zone public school. Charter schools have always been a part of the school choice awareness. So they are not in your zone public school either. So charter schools are able to be included. That was one of the modifications that had to be made this year for us to proceed forward with the ESTF, because if we say we are about school choice, then we have to understand or respect the fact that it has to be choice for all children and all parents. All right. So contracted individual classes and teaching services. So let me make sure I'm clear here because we get a lot of questions about different classes. When in doubt, send an email. Let us clarify for you. Okay. So if it's not something you're sure about, that's what we're all here for, is to make sure that you're able to make confident decisions about your children's education. So always feel free to ask questions if you're not sure.
One thing I'll throw in there about the individual classes piece is that if you are choosing, and I know we've had some questions in the chat about homeschooling, with this program, there is the ability to educate your children at home with the ESTF program. And if that's something that you're pursuing, you are able to use the contracted individual class piece to create a really flexible, customized education where maybe it's, hey, at my local charter school, they're letting me pay for, I can just go to a chemistry class and pay for chemistry class there. And then I can do an online live class, with this provider. And I can go do, we buy curriculum and mom teaches this class at home for this class. So you can really customize a very flexible education. That's sort of the whole goal of this program, is that you're able to find the best fit for your individual child, because we know that's going to be different for everybody's kids and for all the different kids within your family. So we really there's a lot of flexibility and build it yourself within the program, which we're really excited about.
Yes. So, and that all aligns with the ability for you to make the best choice for you and your family and your children. When If you're found eligible for the ESTF program, the disbursements again are through Class Wallet by invoice from the providers. So we do not send you your whole $7,634 all at once. It's dispersed out quarterly through different payments. So the first payment, July 31st, you would receive, it's going to be a little more this year because it's going to be 25 cents somewhere too, just so you know. So just examples, July 31st, then your second disbursement would be September 30th, and then December 31st, and then February 28th. And yes, any unused funds in your account roll over to the next year, with the exception of if your child has graduated. Okay. So if your child has graduated, those funds roll over to the next child. So they roll back in the bucket so that we can make sure the next child has money or access to the Education Scholarship Trust Fund as well. There are two types of vendors that are in Class Wallet, and this is how you spend your ESTF funds. There's the marketplace vendors. You can shop through your Class Wallet portal and select ESTF as your payment method at checkout. And then there's service providers. This is what your schools are considered providers. And your tutors and your therapies, they go under providers, okay? Providers have to submit an invoice to Class Wallet in order to pay for them as a provider to be paid. By law, ESTF is not a reimbursement program. You cannot be repaid for any funds spent out of pocket. Okay. I want to make sure everyone understands that. You want to pay a vendor that's not on the list. We always welcome for you all to ask for a program that you may use, or tutorer, a therapist that you may use. We understand that it's very difficult sometimes to get children, once they're comfortable with someone, to switch. So all that person has to do is register to become a service provider for ESTF. And you can still use your same therapist or your same tutor. They just have to register to become a provider. And let me add something here too. If a school opts into providing tutoring, the school, you're registered as a school to provide the education piece as far as the basic necessities that schools offer, but not necessarily the tutoring. So you would have to register as a school as an additional provider for tutoring. So I like to add that there, because a lot of schools say, well, when we go in and try to pay the tutoring invoice, it doesn't always pay. So you want to make sure that you're being mindful of that. And if you need any help or have any additional questions, just please feel free to reach out. Who is eligible for ESTF? You must be a South Carolina resident. ESTF is created for kindergarten through 12th grade, and you cannot exceed the age of 22. Why the age of 22? We do understand that sometimes children do have to stay in high school a little longer. 22 is for those that may have a late birthday. Okay. You cannot have a household income that exceeds 500% of the federal poverty line, FPL, but 300% or below have priority. Okay. So if you're at 300% of the federal poverty line or below, you'll have priority, which will be January 15th. That's when you apply. Anything over the 300% of the federal poverty line, you will apply on February 9th. This chart shows a person's in household, so it lets you kind of see. And I when I started, this was very good information to be able to see, because I never knew, or had not paid attention to the differences between the percentages. So if you are a household income of one, then you cannot, if to be considered the 300% federal poverty line, you would be at $46,950,000 or less. If you
Yeah,
go
and
over,
so these numbers, I just want to clarify, these are for your household as defined on your taxes. So
yes,
how many you, your spouse, your dependents, that's your household number as per your taxes. So that's how we're defining household here.
yeah. And it's based on your federal adjusted gross income line 11 of your 1040. Okay.
Yes, and this is
So,
from your 2024 taxes. We'll
tax.
get into the documentation and the application in a little bit. Someone was asking in the chat which
Okay.
income this is from. We're looking at 2024 taxes because we know y'all don't have your 2025 ones done yet because you can't even file them for another couple weeks. So we're looking at 2024 this year.
Yeah. So unless you are just super fast with it, I was telling someone that last night. So this is what this is based on. If you do not file taxes, we need other proof of income, including non-taxable income. If you're expecting a baby, you can count them towards your household number for this 2026-27 school year. What is not allowed? Stacking of the scholarship. So you're not allowed to receive both ESTF and exceptional SC, receiving both ESTF and claiming the South Carolina Parental Refundable Tax Credit for children with exceptional needs. But we have to clarify that does not affect your scholarships that are given to you by your school, other outside scholarship programs. Okay. Here are some do's or don'ts as far as the ESTF works. So students receiving ESTF, I mentioned it earlier, may not attend their public zoned, residentially zoned public school. Okay. So you cannot attend your residentially zoned public school. A great example that I want parents to be very mindful of is you cannot start off the school year outside of your zone public school when the 2026-27 school year starts and then switch back to your zone public school. That will disqualify you from being a part of the ESTF as well. You have to stay outside of your residentially zoned public school in order to qualify for ESTF.
Yeah, and
Homeschool.
the way I always like to put it is there's no requirements for what type of school you attend while you're applying for the scholarship. We don't care what school you're in the 2025-26 school year. But what there are requirements about is when you're actually using the scholarship, the year you're using it 26, 27, then there's a couple rules about what schools you attend while using the scholarship. And is it okay if I talk about the homeschool piece, Tisha?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so this we have a lot of questions about this in the chat, and I think there's some slides on this later maybe, but I just wanted to address this. So with the ESTF program, you are the law states very clearly that you're not able to be registered with options 1, 2, or 3 for homeschooling in South Carolina. So through your school district, through SCAES, or through the homeschool association. But what you are able to do is educate at home with ESTF, and that's a permissible thing under the law. I think my slide about this is maybe 2 slides ahead, Tisha. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So because the ESTF law has this section where it talks about if you are participating in this program, it satisfies the state's compulsory attendance, the state's truancy law. It means that you are able to educate at home and set participation in ESTF satisfies those state truancy laws that participating in your homeschool association would do if you were an option 3 homeschooler. So there's no changes to traditional homeschooling in South Carolina, those 3 methods. But what this does do is create a different option for parents who want to educate at home with ESTF. And as I mentioned, it's really very flexible and very customized what you're able to do with this, where you can really build, take a class here, do online here, do this thing and that thing, and really build a customized education for your child. I'm trying to think, what are some of the other FAQs about this one? Let's see. I think that's kind of the big pieces about homeschooling. But if you guys, I know a lot of y'all have questions about this, and we can go through those in the Q&A period at the end. And yeah, we do have transcript management services within the program that are able to do those transcript pieces that maybe your homeschool association would do for you if you were an option 3 homeschooler. Um, and if you guys really want to get in the weeds in this, send Tisha an email and she will give you the whole hour-long recording we have of a webinar where we got attorneys from the department on and talked about all of the specifics of how you can educate at home with the ESTF. But I do want to be clear, like there's no restrictions on what you're doing. If you're homeschooling with option 3 this year while you're applying for next year, that's totally fine.
I just had that question earlier and responded back to someone in the email.
Yeah,
And then when you get to the testing too, I know a lot of people have questions about that, but
right.
you
We'll
can,
chat about testing at the
yeah,
end because
yeah,
there is
forget about that
the
because that might
one
be
the
coming through.
standardized test per year.
Yeah, that might be
Yes.
coming through in the chats too. So we are going to cover testing for homeschoolers and everyone. But we want to make sure that everyone knows what's allowed as well. So, nonprofit, private school, public school, that's not your zone residential school. I know y'all are like, she's beating that horse dead, but we want to make sure that once you start the program in 26, 27, if you're deemed eligible, that you stay eligible. So, public
Yeah.
charter schools, are again considered allowable. And then online or hybrid schools, micro school, and then Felicity just talked about your personalized education plan, at home parent led education.
Yeah. And so this next slide is an example of that public school transfer piece from the example of my younger brother, who we grew up, we are home, our house in Greenville County was zoned for Blue Ridge High School, but my brother attends Wade Hampton High School. And so because that is, even though it's still within the Greenville County School District, he's able to go to Wade Hampton High School and could use ESTF if he wanted to at Wade Hampton because it's not his zoned public school. And then you're also able to, when you're going across district lines, so maybe you live in Lawrence County and you want to send your kid across the line into Greenville County. This is oftentimes where you'll get hit with some crazy fee from the school district where they'll be like, yeah, you can transfer in, but that's going to be, thousands and thousands of dollars because we want you to pay the difference in what your property taxes would be if you lived in Greenville County versus in Lawrence County. And so then they charge you an arm and a leg and all of these fees so that you're able to transfer across district lines. And so those situations especially are where this piece with interdistrict transfer comes in really handy because you're able to pay for those fees for transferring to different school districts. And you can also use it for transportation because we know that can often be a barrier for families in accessing schools that are not their zone public school. So whether it's a bus service or another transportation provider, y'all can use those transportation options as well.
But not your personal car and you driving your child to school and
Right.
put gas in your
Yes.
car. I had that
Yes.
question before. In addition to this, I had a another parent say, "How do I know, how to find my zoned school?" Some counties, districts have it on their website where you can look. What else did you suggest earlier, Felicity, for parents finding their zone public school by zip code? What to
If you go to Zillow has it a lot of times, or your school, your county will oftentimes have it where you can put in your address and look it up.
Okay.
But with that, I know we have a lot of questions that have been coming in about, okay, I hear all this. How do I actually apply? What does that actually look like? Because we keep talking about applications are coming up. They open next Thursday at 8 in the morning. So I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through what the application process looks like. So these are kind of your three websites you want to have on hand for next Thursday. At any of these websites, if you go to them, the application button will be live on these sites at 8 a.m. next Thursday. So if you go to any of these sites, that's where the application link will live. It's not going to be on there until next Thursday, but you can go ahead, bookmark the pages and get ready, and the application will be live on those websites. So yeah, here we are. We're entering application phase 2, January 15th, and then application phase 3 is February 9th. And so if you are looking at the priority groups, because I know we've thrown that out, priority groups, what does that actually mean? So for that November 1st application window, that's recipients from the previous year of ESTF, and then maybe any siblings that they have that weren't in the program, but now the mom's adding them to the program. That's this first window that's just wrapping up. So if any of you guys are on this call and you had the scholarship last year and you haven't renewed yet for this coming school year, y'all better get on that, or otherwise new families are going to be able to start getting in line in front of you starting next Thursday. So Thursday the 15th is when applications open for those with household income at or below that 300% number, or for children of active duty military. And the next one is if you attended a public school in South Carolina in the previous school year. So in this 2024 or this 25-26 school year, if your kid is at a public school, whether it's your zone school, whether it's a public charter school, the law doesn't discriminate about that. It just says if you're in public school this school year. So then you're eligible. And even if you're at the 500% income mark, as long as you're below the 500%, but even if you're above 300, you can, if you're within these two categories, that attended the public school or military, you are able to apply January 15th. And so if you guys are not sure if you're in the application groups for January 15th, we do have a free quiz that you can take at getyouresa.com. It's pretty quick. You click through and it'll help walk you through your household residence and ask you these questions and help you determine if you're eligible to apply January 15th or not. And if any of you are not sure, if you feel like your income's right on the line, there's no problem in going ahead and submitting an application next week, because if it's determined that you're above that 300% mark, you'll just be put in the pile to be processed on February 9th when that works. So yeah, make sure you receive the application link. If you go to estfsc.com, you can take the pre-qualification quiz with the Department of Education. You can get on our email list that way. You can get on Tisha's email list, palmettonavigateed.org. And then the Department of Education's website, ESTFSC, that's where the application link is going to be next Thursday. So the application is done through the FACTS portal, as Tisha mentioned. There's kind of two parts to the application. The first part is just very basic. You could give us your name, your kid's name, your address, kind of very basic information like that. So that's the base application. And then after the base application, there's supporting documents. And we'll get into those in a second. But your application, this is important to note, is that your application is not considered in line until the supporting documents are submitted and processed. So if you are thinking about applying, make sure that you're ready with your documents for next Thursday so that you can get those in the same time you do your base application. What you don't want to do is submit your base application and then sit and wait 3 weeks and then submit your supporting documents. Because as we mentioned, there are limited numbers of scholarships available. And I think we have a slide about this a little later. There's potential for there to be more than 15,000 scholarships, but we just have to wait and see what state legislators decide to do in their budget in the spring, how many scholarships that they will fund above 15,000. So let's talk about, here's the base application. This is a screenshot from an old application. So as you can see, this isn't the right dates, but it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of questions it asks. What's your name, your birthday, all of that stuff. It'll let you, so if you have multiple children you're applying for, you'll just be able to add student, and then it'll ask you information about each of those students. So you as the parent will be the applicant, and then you'll be able to add students onto your application. So it'll ask you kind of these very basic questions, and then it'll ask the number of people living in your household, all of that kind of stuff. Do you file taxes? And then we get into the supporting documents section. And so with the supporting documents, there's 3 types that they're looking for: proof of residency, proof of guardianship, and proof of income. So for proof of residency, we want to see that you live in South Carolina. That's the first thing. There's not a requirement that you're a citizen or anything like that, but there is a requirement that you live in the state of South Carolina. So we have to see proof. The best thing for that is going to be your driver's license. South Carolina driver's license that has a South Carolina address on it. That's going to be the easiest piece. Obviously, that's for the parent, not for the kid. We're not expecting your 5-year-old to have a driver's license. But for you, the parent, your South Carolina driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, you can get one of those free ID cards at the DMV, or you can use other documentation, a mortgage, military orders stationing you in South Carolina, your tax assessment, any sort of government mail that has your address on it, stuff like that. Um, and so I know I had a couple questions in the chat. What if people are moving to South Carolina? If you can give us proof that you're moving to South Carolina, whether that's, hey, we have a contract on a house that's here, whether it's, here's my lease that I'm moving in, stuff like that. That's what we want to see. So that's the first piece. Second is proof of guardianship. We want to see that the kid is, in fact, your kid and you're not just applying on behalf of some random person's kid. So we want to see that it's your kid. The easiest thing for that is if your tax return claims those kids as dependents. That's going to be the easiest piece. If you have a foster or adoption situation, you're going to want to have paperwork of that, your foster placement documentation, things like that. Birth certificates are often going to be used. A note with the birth certificate is if the parent who's applying, if their name has changed since the birth certificate, like if they got married or divorced or something, if mom's name is different on the birth certificate than it is on her driver's license or now, you're going to be asked for some documentation of that, like the marriage license or divorce agreement or something like that. They're just going to want to know why the name changed. So then the third thing is proof of income. We want to know what your adjusted gross income is. So the easiest thing, the thing that we really want to see is your 1040. We want to see your tax returns, and we'll look at line 11 on those tax returns. And if you do not file taxes, you're going to have to provide us other documentation about where your income comes from, whether it's disability payments, whether it's SSI, anything like that. So that's when we're going to get into the weeds of we want to see documentation of all these different types of income that you have, your last several pay stubs, things like that. But the easiest thing is going to be submitting your 2024 tax returns. If your 24 ones are held up by the IRS or something, we're fine to take 2023. And then, once we get past the end of January, so if you're in the February application window, you could do your 2025 taxes if you finish that by then. So yeah, and then I know there's a couple questions in the chat here about what if your income has changed. That's a great question and one that we get a lot. So whether it's in 2024, you had this number of people in your household, and now in 2025, you had a baby born, and so that changes the number of people in your household, and then that changes your incomes, and now you're eligible, but your taxes don't reflect that, something like that. Or whether it's you lost a job or one of the parents stopped working, any documentation of sort of that change of income piece, just send it to us via email. That email, ESTF program at ed.sc.gov, that goes to Joshua and I. Submit your application, and then take your application ID number from that application and send us an email and say, hey, here's my ID number, here's my application, and here's the documents I have that show that my income has changed since that 2024 tax return. So we always have to see documentation of some kind. So paperwork, any kind of documentation, you can give us a letter saying that you were laid off, things like that is what we really want to see there.
I want to emphasize right here, Felicity, because you moved a little quickly through it. Submit your application during the January if your income has dropped, and then
Yeah,
send the email, because that's a constant that's coming up even in our in-person sessions. So I wanted to make sure they understood: submit first, then email.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Let's see, let me look at, Katie asked, do we need one document for each category? So the tax return will work for both the guardianship and the income. So for most people, your application is going to be your driver's license and your 1040, and that's going to be the easiest way to do it. As long as that 1040 includes the part where it has your kids as dependents, you're good to go. Let's see, Joshua, there is a question here about, is the 1040 good for proof of income, or do they want the full tax return with all the schedules? Could you answer that one?
The 1040, I don't necessarily need the schedules if I've got the data from the 1040. The critical point there is I need to see line 11 because that's the adjusted gross income. And then if you're doing the actual 1040, because you have two options, you could send us the 1040 Or you could do the text transcript where you sign up and give facts that information and they can download it. The interesting thing on that is when they download the transcripts, the dependent information does not transfer, which is a personal information protection from IRS. So if you're using the 1040 to prove guardianship, you have to do the physical 1040 and scan it rather than use the tax transcript.
Great. Thank you. That was helpful. And then Stephanie asked if you moved within the state of South Carolina and your driver's license still shows your old address, but it says South Carolina, but now she has a new address still within South Carolina. Is that a big deal? Does she need to go to the DMV this week or is she going to be fine?
I'd go to the DMV this week.
Okay. She says she's changed it with the DMV online, but she just doesn't have the physical new license with the
Yeah,
new
I would
address.
I would get the physical license as quick as you
Okay.
can. Otherwise, the other option is if you already have bills at your new address, you can upload the bills that you've got, utility bills, sewer, water, electric, internet, trash, that sort of thing.
Good. Beautiful. All right. So let's keep on here. So as you're working through the application, if you're having issues, obviously I mentioned that additional documentation, you can email to us at estfprogram@ed.sc.gov. If you're having the kind of issue where you're like, hey, I'm locked out of my account, it's glitching, it's not loading, that's where you want to call FACTS. Their customer service number is there. And then Outbridge, Yanni, they do a great job supporting parents through the application process. Both Outbridge and Palmetto Navigate Ed, Palmetto Promise Institute are going to be great for y'all as you're going through the process if you have questions. So please reach out to any of us at any point in this process if you have questions, especially if you're thinking about how your documentation is going to work. One more thing I will say about documentation, let me just click back one slide. If you are when you're uploading this on the application, it's going to ask for it as a PDF or as a JPEG. PDF is going to process faster in the automated system for whatever reason. So if you can scan it as a PDF, that's great. You can do it on your iPhone now. I taught my mom how to do this recently. So if you Google how to scan on your iPhone, you can do it. You can scan it as a PDF. But if you end up taking a picture, it's not the end of the world. I also always send people to, if you have a library or a local school or even a church, they might be able to help you get that scanned in as a PDF if they have a scanner. So
Just
yeah,
quickly too, a lot of the schools are setting up on the 15th to are available to help. So if you're near a school or already have a established relationship with a school, reach out to them. They are more than willing to help you as well.
yeah, beautiful. Great. So it is probably going to be about 2 weeks after your application is submitted. We'll be able to circle back to you with an answer. By law, the department has 30 days to make decisions on those. You can always check with Outbridge to see the list of education service providers. And then the way the email is worded when you get awarded the scholarship, it does not say congratulations. It says you have been found. We are pleased to tell you you have been found eligible. And so some people ask me, wait, what does that mean? Are you actually eligible? It does mean like you're in. If you get the you have been found eligible, that means you're in. You're good. So keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, and so this is the other piece that I kind of mentioned is that there's 15,000 scholarships at a minimum. And then state legislators, when they go to do their budget this spring, they're able to add additional scholarships. On top of that 15,000, the Department of Education in our budget this year, we're requesting that they fund 20,000 scholarships instead of 15,000 because we know there is a lot of interest in this program. And so we'll see what legislators come back with when they're doing their state budget this spring. But we probably won't know until April, May is kind of when that happens in the spring. So all this to say, if you apply and you get an email that says you're on the wait list, don't freak out. This is not the end of the world because the wait list there's a lot of movement off the wait list for a lot of different reasons, including if they do end up funding additional scholarships past that 15,000, we'll know that later in the spring. So then we'll be able to say late in the spring, hey, you did get bumped up off the wait list. So don't freak out. If you hear wait list, it's not the end of the world. All right. So yeah, thinking about preparing ahead of time for your application. Again, that opens on Thursday, January 15th at 8 in the morning. I would go ahead, y'all, and get those documents ready, scanned in. You don't want to be scanning them that morning. You want to have them on your computer in a little file ready to go that morning. So I would go ahead and make sure you have a driver's license, or if you don't have a driver's license, you can go get that free government ID card for proof of residency. If you are like my mother and lost your child's birth certificate somewhere in the files of your drawers and don't know where it is, you should maybe get on that and request a new birth certificate. And then make sure you have your taxes, the right copy scanned in, ready to go. And if you ever have questions about documentation, please just reach out and ask. We are all here to help you through that process. And now, okay, I'm going to get into testing really quick, and then we are going to do some answers. Oh wait, Joshua, someone asked driver's license, front and back, or just the front? Do you care?
Just the front.
Just the front. We don't care about the back. They ain't got nothing on the back except for
We're
if you have
not
to wear
hooked into their
glasses or
QR
not.
system.
Okay. So yeah, we just want to see the front of your driver's license. You're good. So one requirement of receiving the scholarship is you agree to submit testing, standardized testing for your student at the end of the school year. This is not a super onerous requirement, but it is one that legislators put into the law to make sure that students are making academic progress in the program. And so what that looks like in the law, this is a bunch of gobbledygook that's actually in the legislation, and I'll tell you in a minute what it means, so don't freak out. But basically, for students in 3rd through 12th grade, it's going to ask for testing. If you're in kindergarten through 2nd grade, you don't need testing. You just have to submit additional documentation of like, give us your report card, give us a portfolio, give us some pages of your sample work scanned in. We're not going to ask for anything crazy. And then the same thing for special needs students. Portfolio work is totally fine. So there's 2 types of tests you can do, a formative or a summative test. A formative test is where you take it at the beginning and middle and end of the school year. So that's like your MAP test, your STAR test, stuff like that. And then a summative assessment is where you take it just once at the end of the year. That's kind of what your SATs are in high school, things like that. And so either one of those are totally fine. Here is the list of the approved tests. If you are attending a private school with ESTF, the school is required to offer you those tests, an approved test, and you just need to coordinate with your school. If they're sending the test score to the department, or if the parents are sending it, it doesn't matter who it comes from. We just got to get it somehow. So y'all have to make sure that happens. If you're educating at home, or if you're attending
before you hop into educating at home, let me go back. The link for the schools will show up at the provider, Joshua, at the end of the school year. Is that how they're going to submit the test? I've had that question often from the school.
Give me that one more time.
The link.
How do they submit testing?
How are they going to submit testing? Is it going to show up on their under provider page for the schools to submit the testing for the families?
We're working on a couple of things, but for now, the school would send us the test results. We may be able to put up a portal between now and then, but we're working on that. But yeah, the testing is one of the things that the schools do at the end of the year. Now, if you are educating from home, then you'll have to do that yourself.
Yeah. This actually goes well into Rachel's question here about state testing for homeschoolers. So all the students on ESTF, whatever education method, you have to submit some sort of standardized test at the end of the year. If you have a documented disability, an IEP, a 504, a doctor letter, you just submit that, the proof of your disability, and then you submit some sort of portfolio work instead, report cards, a paper your kid wrote, anything like that, we're happy to take. And so that's the same kind of thing for kindergarten through 2nd grade. And so SC Ready, that's the state test. So you're welcome to take the state test. If your kid is in a public school, they're going to take the state test. But there's also these other options, MAP, iReady, STAR, Iowa, Stanford. And we do have testing vendors within the program, like Seton Testing, where literally you can pay for it with your ESTF funds. You log onto your computer, you take your Iowa or your Stanford test online, you pay for it with ESTF funds, and then you send it to us. And so it's really, the wonders of modern technology. When I was a kid, I had to go to the testing center and fill in the little bubbles and the things. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just take your Iowa test right online. So it's very easy these days, which is something that we're very happy about.
Can I add something really quick too? Parents often say, so what about the test scores? What about the report? Your eligibility for ESTF is not contingent upon your grades or your test scores.
No.
So I want to make that clear. This is just a part of the modification. If you go back to what I said earlier, there were modifications we had to make for us to be able to have an ESTF, and this was one of the modifications. So this is just making sure that we can track your child's progression and that all children are being treated equal as far as being tracked for progression. So that's all this is. It will not make your child not eligible or anything.
Yes, we're not going to kick you out because your
Right.
score's too low or something. You're
Right.
fine. Yes, this is just part of what's in the law. Legislators want reporting on that. So anyways, Joshua, I guess from here we can get into some of these pile of questions that people have been sending in. I think I'll go ahead and MC the questions and throw them at y'all, and Joshua and Tisha and Yanni. You guys can jump in and answer those if that sounds good for you. So first question, actually, I'm going to answer this one. Haha. Lori wants to know if you can use it for co-ops for homeschooled students. And the answer is yes, if your co-op will register as an education service provider. And so the way that we've had some homeschool co-ops register is, oh, sorry, Joshua put up his finger. As long as your co-op does not require you to be registered with options 1, 2, or 3, as long as they're fine with you being an at-home educator with ESTF and taking classes at their co-op, they can register as an individual class provider with ESTF, and then you're able to pay them directly for that individual class service. So that's kind of the piece I talked about earlier, where you can pick and choose. I want to do a class here and there and there. So a homeschool co-op would be an example of someone that could do that individual class offering. All right, Joshua, if you're a military reservist, are you able to qualify for priority for your children? This mom is often on and off active duty orders, but not full-time active duty.
Unfortunately, that answer is no. You've got to be active duty at the time of your application. And that's simply the way that the General Assembly wrote the law.
All right. Got it. All right. So this person says, I've signed up for a monthly payment plan to be drafted from my bank account. My school's payments run from June to May. If disbursements begin July 31st, does Class Wallet offer some sort of banking details for updating future auto draft payments?
First of all, if you want to use this program, I'd stop the auto draft immediately, because you're not going to be able to be reimbursed for what you pay out. If how do I put this? The funds are going to come to your Class Wallet account in late July. You're not going to be able to spend anything before then. So you may end up having to go out of pocket for those months. And then the good news is then you'll have that money possibly for next year as you continue to roll through the program. But you're not going to be able to pay anything out of Class Wallet, out of your ESTF account until at the earliest very late July.
Great. Thank you. All right, next one. If disbursements don't happen until July 31st, how does that work for homeschool families? Thinking about when do you order curriculum if you're starting school right at the beginning of August?
We do our best, but again, this is how the law was constructed. So if you're educating at home, you're going to have access to those funds in late July. Order what you can. We're going to try to process those orders as quickly as we can. I will tell you, if it's a technology order, that's probably going to take longer. Books and curriculum can move a little bit faster, but especially for this upcoming year, I expect that the technology purchases are going to be delayed somewhat.
Great. Thank you. Can you talk to us about transportation? How does transportation work? And then someone had a question about after school and if that qualifies.
On the transportation side, well, let me jump to after school first. If the after school is simply after school care, it's like daycare, the answer is no. If you are in a tutoring session and you're being tutored in the after school, or it's an extracurricular where the school is your kid's on the soccer team or the football team or something like that, and there are fees associated with that, then those answers are yes. On transportation, I think the number one way that transportation has been used in the program is that the schools offer a secondary option to be able to provide transportation that they can then bill you through ESTF. We have been working on a number of possibilities for other transportation providers who can do it on a one-off basis. The lack of the ability to reimburse parents that is in the law, we can't work around that, has been a disincentive for a lot of those transportation companies because they'd have to work off of, I get an invoice, the invoice gets paid, and then I take your kid on for the ride to wherever they need to go to school or to events, as the case may be. That has been a disincentive and something that we've been trying to work through. I think the highest use case is schools using it to be able to transport kids to their school, whether it's independent or charter school, the schools that don't have a natural transportation policy that they can rely on. But that's how transportation has worked out to date. We're still working on it. We did have one provider that didn't work out, and I'll just leave it at that. But those are the kinds of things that we've been working on.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's see. So someone says, with my 2024 taxes, I do not qualify for the January 15th window. However, I will with my 2025 taxes. I won't be able to gather all my W-2s and complete taxes by January 15th. What do I do? Do I have to wait till February 9th to apply? Is there an exception for this with the job change? How does that work?
You can apply earlier. You're going to have to apply with your 24 taxes, and you're going to be denied on that basis if you're above the line. Then you're going to be able to, there will be an ability to file an appeal. I would think you could either wait until you have your 25 taxes done and then hustle and get them done as fast as you can. Generally speaking, you should be able to get your W-2s in by the end of the legal deadline is January 31st. That puts you in quite a bit of a race to be able to get it done to get into this program. But if you know that's sort of a problem that you've got, that may be something you have to work around. You are not alone in that category. There are a number of families who've already contacted us. I already have appeals. That's actually, if you've noticed me sort of going back and forth between this webinar and my other screens, appeals on the basis of income, because my income dropped from 24 to 25, has taken up most of my day to day. So this is something that we can do, something we can handle. What we will need is proof, ironclad proof of income as to what it is that you made in 25. So the best way for that is to have a 2025 1040. Otherwise, we might be chasing a lot of paper that you may or may not have.
Great.
What about that the December 31st paycheck stuff? Would that work?
December 31st paycheck stub is a big help if it's got all of your year to date, but I need that for every single member of your family.
Great. Thank you. Let's see. Can you start an application and save it and come back later before submitting?
Yes.
Great. My son receives speech and occupational therapies. Would I answer yes on the application to where it asks, does your son have disabilities?
That is a self-identifying question. That is a question that helps us make broad, determinative decisions about the program and make sure that we have enough people as therapists to serve. Whether or not you click that particular box on the application does not impact the services that you can be provided. So if you click that or don't click that, you still have access to educational therapies, be they speech, ABA, OT, PT, as long as your insurance isn't paying for those. But yeah, that's how I would answer that, is that doesn't actually impact the services that we can provide. Now,
Great.
what it does
Thank
do
you.
is it flags for us, is there a situation where you have an IEP or a 504 that specifically talks to an inability to last through standardized testing, which would then exempt you from that testing.
Great. Does military LES count as proof of income and military orders count as proof of residency?
Military orders can count as proof of residency. I don't know enough about the first half of that question to answer it.
So leave an earning statement.
Leave an earning statement. I'd rather have a 1040.
Okay,
10,
good stuff.
10, 1040 is the gold standard. Anything
Okay,
under a 1040 will make it harder for us to get you in the program.
okay. What if you have one child in public school and one in private school? Can you use the funds for the child who's now in private school for next year? Or does it have to go toward the child that's in public school this year? Does that make sense? So if you're applying and you want to
Well,
apply in the priority group,
yeah.
but you
So
want to use it for the kid that's in private school.
you can apply now, understanding that the child who's in private school may not have priority. The child who's in public school does, but the money has to be for that child. It can't be for, you can't move money back and forth between various kids. So if you're applying for the kid who's currently in public school because you intend to move him out of his own public school, then that's fine. But you can't use Peter's money to pay Johnny's stuff.
Great, thank you. Are only parent-child applications approved? My dependent is my niece.
If they're your niece, we absolutely can approve that. What I will say is they need to be on your 1040. They need to be your dependent. If they're not your dependent, we have some ways of working around that, especially if you have something like temporary guardianship or something that's court ordered. And we can talk about that offline. But we
Send us
have a
an
number
email
of,
if that's you.
I'm sorry,
Send us an email if that's your situation.
send us an email, ESTF program at ed.sc.gov. And Felicity and I get all of those. But yeah, we absolutely have situations where we have non-parent. It's the real world, right? Sometimes these things happen. We have a number of custodial aunts and uncles already in the system. We have a large number, surprisingly, of custodial grandparents, and at least one case where I have a custodial great grandparent who's taking care of a child, and that's how life worked out, and our program reflects how life works out sometimes.
Okay. Talk to us about a divorce situation, split custody, shared custody. Let's see. This particular person says, my 2023 taxes show both children, but in 2024, my ex-spouse claims one of them, but she has birth certificates for both of them and the primary custody per her divorce decree. What should she submit for her application?
So I'm going to need the 24 taxes and the divorce decree that lists the names of the kids and you.
Birth certificates as well, or
Birth
was
certificates, very helpful.
okay.
And then your finances, not the combined finances, but your finances as the custodial parent, your 1040 is the one that controls.
Great. Okay. Talk to us about a new baby being born that maybe wasn't on your 2024 taxes, but they were born during 2025 and you want them to count for the purposes of your
Yeah.
household number. How do you do that?
Email us the birth certificate.
Okay.
And we can get it added to the application so that facts then can correctly identify that you had 6 in the household instead of 5, for instance.
Okay. What about if a parent is expecting a child? Maybe the baby's not going to be born until July this year.
That still counts, much as it does with federal programs now. What I need in that case is something from your doctor that says so-and-so is pregnant, and or a dated, identified sonogram picture because I had
Beautiful.
had somebody send me one of those, which makes me feel like
Great.
I'm, the uncle of
Oh,
10,000. But yeah,
Yeah.
look,
Joshua wants to see your baby pictures.
I got a baby picture and it's not even your kid, but it's okay. It's fine. We
That's
love them
so
all.
funny. All right. What about if your child is approved for the grant but attends a private school that's not an ESTF vendor? Are you still eligible to receive the funds for other eligible expenses? And could you use it for a private school that is approved in the future if you had to switch?
Yes and yes. So yes, you can use it now for therapies or tutoring or transportation or uniforms or technology. And yes, if you want to switch that later to the school down the street that does take ESTF, that's not a problem either. We will simply follow the invoices. So you send us, you've been deemed eligible. You have the account. You upload the invoices, and as long as those invoices are for the things that we cover, whether it's the services or the goods, then we can help.
Great. Thank you. All right. Um, what does it mean, Joshua, about on that testing screen that some things are provisionally allowed as a test?
So we're allowing it for this year. We may end up having to make a change on that, depending on how the legislatively mandated linking studies turn out. So we are in process with linking studies for those provisionally accepted tests. And if we can make those linking studies work to where we can say, yes, the percentile for Iowa matches up closely enough to the percentiles for SC Ready, basically, is what you're looking at.
Great.
Then we'll be able to accept it into the future. If we can't make it work, and there's just no way to make that data work, then we'll have to pull those tests.
Okay. Someone on here is asking about a list of approved schools. And so for that, I'm going to actually take them over here to Outbridge's website, which has this beautiful, beautiful school finder tool where you can see, I love this tool. You can go in and see all of these beautiful, beautiful little schools, and you can look and see if you want to do a school, and then you can type in your city. So I'm here in Columbia, so I want to go Columbia, South Carolina. And then it will take me right here, and I can see all the schools here in my local area. Or if I want to look at um, transportation vendors, assessment vendors. Oh, okay, there might not be a lot of assessments. See, now there's all types of school supplies. Um, Curriculum options. So you can really dig through here and see all of the options for you. And there's a lot that are constantly being added to the program. This is really a moving list. There's lots happening. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. And then let's see. I guess, Tisha, we can go ahead and stop sharing the screen as we keep answering questions. Okay. So if your child attends a school that accepts scholarship funds and you have to pay upfront or monthly for your tuition, how does that work if you're getting the funds quarterly throughout the school year?
So if they're asking for them up front, you kind of have a problem. Hopefully, if it's an ESTF school, you just tell them I'm ESTF and they know to bill quarterly. Most of the schools do. Um, some schools still will take monthlies. That's kind of between you and the school. Um, the You're going to get it quarterly, and if you do it monthly, you can still put in a monthly invoice, and the money will come out of your account. Generally speaking, if it's $1,875 a quarter, then they're going to charge you $625 a month instead of $1,875, and you're still going to end up paying the same amount, just in a more chunked out time frame.
Beautiful. Great. Okay, some people say, how do I keep doing option 3 and still homeschool but use ESTF? And the answer to that is that the law prohibits that. You are not able to be option 3 and use ESTF. You have to pick one or the other. But with ESTF, you're really still able to do everything that an option 3 homeschooler does. You're just not going to have a homeschool association that you're part of. And instead of that, you can use the transcripts management providers that we have within the system. You'll ask the Department of Education for the DMV letters, your homeschool discount letters, stuff like that. We'll make sure you're still eligible for state scholarships. things like that. So it's kind of the same as being option three, but you're with ESTF instead of with a homeschool association. Joshua, someone is asking, what about sports team fees through your zoned public school if you're a homeschooler? Can you use ESTF for that?
The answer is yes, comma, but. And the but is your zone school district has to join the ESTF program and be one of the districts that will bill ESTF. Currently, out of the 85 school districts in South Carolina, 31 have joined the program. Of those 31, only 17 have actually gone through the process to get their banking set up. I'm assuming they've done that because they applied for it and then they didn't actually have any students who needed it. My hope is that they'll get that fixed. That's something that we have some folks working on. But um, if your district is not one of the 31 districts, then you're going to have to talk to them and say, hey, can we use ESTF funds for this? And they'll have to join the program. Now, if you're one of those 85 districts and you apply, your acceptance is automatic because you're already a legally operating LEA within the state. So that's not a problem. The question is, are they willing? And some have been and some have not.
Great. Okay, someone wants to know, one member of my household is in college and earns her own small income. Do you have to count her income toward your household income?
Is she filing her own taxes, or are you filing a head of household income where you're taking her as a dependent? So the trade-off is if you are taking the college student as the dependent, then you have to have
I don't think that's right because my dad took me as a dependent while I was still working.
well, you're still working, and then
Yeah,
you paid your own taxes.
yeah.
Um,
So we just
I
both
mean,
paid taxes
as usual,
because his income was his income and mine was mine.
right, the 1040 is what controls. So if
Yeah.
you've got her income on your 1040, then because yeah, when that you're right. When that happened, I would imagine if you're like me when I was in college, I paid my own taxes, but I didn't get to take myself as a dependent, so I had to pay higher income taxes on my soccer shoe selling income, uh, which is
It's
how
rough out
I
here.
yeah. So that's what I would say about that.
Good
Um,
stuff.
yeah.
Can you submit proof of EBT or Medicaid as income limit verification?
Yes, as part of if you don't have a 1040, that's one of the things I'm going to ask for. I'm going to end up asking for a number of things, but I'm going to ask for your EBT and your SNAP and your Medicaid proofs.
Great. Okay. If my child is eligible for the scholarship, will she get in for the following years as long as you renew? How does that work? Talk about renewals and
You have to re
rollovers.
you have to renew every year. The legislature made the decision that we have to renew every year so that we can make sure that you're still a South Carolina resident and that you're still income eligible. Keeping in mind that the federal poverty level tends to go up every year. So the good news is, even as your income starts to climb, so will the threshold, especially when we're at 500% of the threshold. 500% of federal poverty level covers around 86 or 87% of all residents in the state of South Carolina. So chances are pretty good you're still going to maintain that eligibility over time.
Mark would like to know, can you still play public school sports if you're educating at home with ESTF, just like options 1 through 3 homeschoolers can? And can you pay for sports fees out of pocket? Can you use ESTF to pay for them? How does sports work?
So that is a question for the school districts. That there's no reason that we should be excluded, that our students should be excluded, but that's up to the districts to do. We don't control that. On the paying side, as I said before, um, if they are a district that has signed up as a vendor for ESTF, then you can pay them.
Great. All right. Somebody wants to know, going back to testing, I understand the school I'm interested in has their own testing when applying. do you know if the testing required with ESTF would be in addition to schools' testing requirements, hoping it would all align with the school's application testing window? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So the school, as long as the school is using Iowa or Stanford or CLT or MAP, iReady, or STAR, as long as that's the case, then it all matches up. If they're using something else, then you're going to have either have the school do an additional round of testing, or you're going to have to do that individually. Now, we have multiple companies on the multiple vendors, I should say, on the platform that can do Iowa. Both BJU Press and Seton Testing can handle Iowa tests. If you're doing MAP, which is the formative test, Homeschool Boss does that. So those are both things that can be purchased through the platform. If you still need to be able to get tests in, but the service providers should be the ones that are offering these tests, and they should offer the tests that have been approved by the state. We are attempting. We attempted last year and it didn't work out. We're going to try again this year to set up our own testing center using various other facilities around the state so that your kids can have SC Ready as an option. What I will say about that option, Iowa's generally something that gets done in a day or two. Same with Stanford. SC Ready is a 3 to 4 day test. And for a lot of kids, especially if you're in another school, that's a lot of time away from the classroom that you may or may not want to have to spend. So that's just something to keep in mind as when you're choosing test options.
Great, thank you. All right. What if your curriculum isn't listed as an approved vendor? How can they become approved? Does the parent need to contact the company themselves?
Parents contacting companies and saying, "Hey, I'm in this ESTF program," is the number one way we get new vendors. That's for transportation, tutoring, uniforms, virtually anything. So I would say yes, if your curriculum hasn't, if you don't find them, make sure you're looking in every possible place they could be, because there are a lot of them that might be there in places like christianbook.com or The Good and the Beautiful or Homeworks for Books, which are sellers of multiple book categories and curriculum categories. But if they're not there, have them apply. We have a couple of hundred book and curriculum providers, and we're always happy to get more.
Great. All right. Well, y'all, I think we are going to start wrapping up our time here. But if anyone has any burning questions they feel like can't be answered, one person was wondering. So if you think you are eligible, maybe for the February window, if you go ahead and apply next week during January 15th, what happens, Joshua?
So either you have the priority because you fit one of those three categories, and we process you immediately, or we find that you don't have the priority and you're not processed until after that February 9th date. Until the window opens on February 9th.
That's
But
a great question
you're
for the
not
people who
you're not going to
apply
get
during renewals too, Joshua.
yeah, you're not going to get denied. You're simply going to get considered later.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but they don't have to, and that's a good question because I had that I was about to send you one of those, but since we're at it, so they don't have to go back in on the 15th and okay.
Do anything else.
They're good.
They've already clicked submit.
Okay. So it's just
Okay.
them holding and then they'll get processed through on the 15th. Okay. Thank you.
Great. All right. Any other burning questions? Yes, y'all, we'll make sure that this webinar is available for y'all to watch later. Tisha will send you a follow-up email if you are on this webinar, and we'll include the link to the recording of this webinar as well as links to some of our previous webinars. So yeah, and you can reach, somebody asked, children, if you're already enrolled in a private school, are you able to apply? The answer to that is absolutely you are. There's no restrictions on what school you're attending while you apply for the scholarship, just on while you're using the scholarship. So absolutely you can do that. Joshua, this is a fun question. Who reads the applications? Is it an actual person? Is it an electronic system? Give us the DL. Who is reviewing these?
There are human beings. There are people. There is an AI function to it to overlook some of it, but there are always people behind it making sure everything is working appropriately. And I speak with these people, and I know that they are people and not just figments of my AI imagination. I get emails. We email each other back and forth. And like some of them were on our vendor call yesterday. Yes, real actual people read these.
Yeah, especially if there's situations where they're like, hey, this parent has additional documentation that's going to come to Joshua and I's desks, and we're going to actually be looking at your applications. Okay, can you remind us, Joshua, how do people apply? And is there a deadline for applying? What do they do? When does applications open? How do we know?
So yeah, for returning students, the application is open now. For the three priority areas of active duty military, family income under 300%, or current private school students, the priority runs from January 15 to February 8th. Then on February 9th, it opens up to the general population, and it's going to stay open until middle to late June.
Great. But it's first come, first serve based on when your supporting documents are submitted. And because there's a limited number of scholarship spots, we do expect it to go pretty quickly, those spots being handed out. So you definitely want to be on it, get ready to apply next Thursday. If I was y'all, I would have my documents scanned in. I would have them in a little folder on my desktop, A01. I go to ESTFSC.com. I find the apply now button, and boom, there you go. So that would be my advice for y'all if you want to make sure you get in. And if you guys are on this webinar, if you registered, we have your email addresses. We'll be sending emails to you that morning. Hey, here's the application link. So that you'll be getting it as long as you register for this webinar. We have your email, so we'll send it to you. But again, that URL is estfsc.com.
And if you listen to radio or have YouTube, look for some possibly fun ads coming next week to help remind you to get those applications in. That's all I'll say about that for now.
Yeah, y'all, it's going to be so fun. We're excited. All right. Well, if anyone else
close out, I just wanted to mention too, do not get discouraged if you get put on the wait list. I can't stress that enough. The wait list is very good. We had people come off as late as December for this present school year. So please do not be discouraged in reference to the wait list. I tell you, we live in a supply and demand world. And so we have a supply of 15,000, but we need to show that we have demand for more. So that's always my closing statement when I'm in person. And that's how I'll close us out on the webinar. Do not be discouraged. Apply, apply, apply.
Yep. That's really good. And the places y'all can go for information, again, those websites, estfsc.com, palmettonavigateed.org is going to have lots of great information, including what documents you need to apply. Like that page on Facebook, they'll be posting reminders, all of that. And the Outbridge's website, outbridge-sc.org. Also great resources for y'all there. And we'll make sure to send y'all a follow-up email off of this webinar, keep you in the loop. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. ESTF program at ed.sc.gov is me and Joshua. You can get Tisha at info@palmettonavigateed.org.
Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Right. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.